tweaks? Possibly. Technically, sure. Tactically, absolutely. Where there'll be some tweaks physically? Certainly. Maybe we have to do some things. But we have a process, so we don't get caught up in the emotions of what might or might not happen. So we always rely on our process so we can stay consistent on a day-to-day basis. And we'll rely on our process whether things are going well or sometimes when there's some adversity like there is right now.
Yeah, Brian, right here. Can you confirm if you've hired Pete Jenkins as an analyst? And if you have, what do you kind of expect that he can bring to y'all that maybe right now you don't have?
Yeah, so as you know, Jimmy Lindsey has not been with us as our defensive line coach. And, you know, one of the things that we want to be able to do is, in hiring Pete, and his role has not been defined yet, other than he will be consulting and assisting our defensive line room. And, you know, John Jancic has the defensive line. His expertise is not necessarily in that area. He's a good football coach, but we want to provide our student athletes with the most resources, and Pete gives us the expertise and the ability to help us with technique and some technical things that we want to be able to do on a day-to-day basis. So he's going to come in, he'll be here and assist us and help Coach Jancic in that room.
What are the advantages, or are there in this situation any disadvantages to having a corner coach and a safety coach? Why is the staff kind of moved towards that model?
Well, there's so many complexities. I mean, this would take a while. You know, your safeties are linked into run fits that are not the same run fits that the corners are. So, you know, your safeties need to be part of some drill work that the corners are not even involved in, whereas, you know, the corners need to be in some technical work during that time that would be purely a waste of time for them. So you really need to separate those two. They really can't be working together all the time. So it's something that, for me, I think probably the last, oh God, it's got to be 20 years since I've had that group together. It's always been safeties and corners for me.
Just defensively, how do you balance personnel with scheme? I mean, you guys have played a lot of the same players, you know, over the last couple of weeks, but just what does it look like, I guess, kind of going forward in terms of how you get those guys in the best position to impact the game and the scheme?
Yeah, so, you know, we got home at around 2 a.m. I got about 4 or 5 hours sleep, and since that time, we've been having those discussions up until I walked into this door right here. So that point is exactly what we're spending time on. I think we've come up with some valid kind of solutions to where we want to go moving forward. Look, we missed a lot of tackles that gave up a lot of yards after the misses. We've got to be better in the fundamentals, and our guys know that. We've got to get the ball on the ground. We've got to create a new line of scrimmage, and that will be job one and job two as we move forward on Tuesday.
Hey, Brian, in the middle. There's kind of the old axiom, when you have a game like that, you burn the tape. Do you and your staff, do you find any benefit of watching a game like that and showing things like that to your team?
You know, I think there's probably moments where you kind of, you know, say, let's just flush this because it's not going to happen again. But I think it's important with a young team, especially on the look. Let's really look at this as it is, right? We have 11 players that have started at their position on offense back. 11. All 11 players at their particular position had started at their position at one time or another on the offensive side of the ball. And they have played like that, right? And the expectation should be. We really have 4 on the defensive side of the ball. And so it's important that every moment is a teaching experience for them. So in one sense, you kind of want to move forward, but in another, it's so important that every moment becomes a teaching moment for our football team.
Hey, Coach. Last year, your D-line had to, out of necessity, carry so many snaps. I guess just like looking at the Ole Miss game, those starters carried about 85% of them. Is that the number you want to be at? And I also had a follow-up.
It's really about getting the right players on the field, playing their very best football, and so. What is that configuration? And it's kind of going back to the earlier question. We've got to be able to maximize the potential of our defensive line. And we're in conversation about, are we doing that? And so, we're big. We're big up front. We have to play physical. We have to play with low pads. We have to create a new line of scrimmage. So I'm not trying to avoid your question as much as I'm trying to tell you that we have to create, the right scheme so our guys can be the best versions of themselves.
And just a player update. Was and is Deshaun Womack available right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Brian, you spoke of there's a collective effort in coaching. With Matt House still making all the decisions, you have a former defensive coordinator who worked for you, obviously, on the staff. Do you want to get more of his input? I mean, has any of that changed as far as, I'm not saying you have to have co-defensive coordinators, but has anything changed?
No, the decision-making process is nothing that is a concern of mine. This is really about the teaching and the execution, and so that requires two parties: the coaches coaching and the players executing. And so, that's not about leadership. That's not about the message not resonating. I feel great about all those things and the leadership that we're getting from my defensive coordinator. Input, we're always welcoming input. So, matter of fact, we had a meeting today with the entire defense. I was with them, and we got great input. I'll always ask for input. There's never a silence when it comes to weighing in, because you can't fully buy in unless you're allowed to weigh in. So we take information. We want to listen to everybody that has experience. But there is one voice. There is one leader of our defense. I have the utmost confidence in his ability to run our defense, and he will run it effectively. We need to continue to coach and teach and develop our players, and we will do that.
Brian, on that sort of teaching and coaching, is there anything that you want to have done differently in terms of the coaching of some fundamentals like tackling to improve in those sort of basic areas?
Well, so what is tackling, right? What is tackling? Tackling can be taught. And something that we teach every single day. And so, when we talk about it, how much time do we spend on it? So we have to examine and look at our practice schedule. Are we spending enough time? Well, traditionally, it would say that that's what we normally spend. With this group, maybe we have to spend more time. So those are the kind of discussions that we're having, is that, we recognize the importance of tackling, how important it is, and how it impacted this game. I think it was, over 285 yards after misses that led to their offense. And, tackling was at the center of it. So, we have to be able to look at, are we spending enough time given the circumstances, and those would be the adjustments we would make.
Coach, down here, it looked like you're forced into a lot of different combinations in the two outside corner spots. So I'm wondering, how far along are you into finding like a consistent grouping back there?
You're seeing what I'm seeing. We're working our tails off. We had some injuries there. We lost Zay for a little bit with an ankle. Ashton Stamps is coming off of a groin injury. They were game. They gave us everything they had, and did the best they could, given the circumstances. So I'm proud of those guys. They went out and they competed, and did the best that they could given the circumstances. But that's our rotation. Those are the four guys, LT and Denver. Those are the four guys that we're rolling with right now.
Hey, Coach, over here. So update on Greg Brooks. How is he doing? And just, I know things are bigger than football, obviously.
Yeah.
But one more thing as well. Just not having him out there, or just from a football standpoint, how much of a void is that? Not have a leader back there to help with communication, lining guys up in the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the last thing I was thinking about was the tackling, but, saw Greg yesterday. We had a couple of players over there. Greg, I know, was over there, Penn and Mackay. He's able to respond to commands. It's been a long road for him. His family has been amazing. They're there every day. The support that he's been receiving from the community has been overwhelming. I know the family can't thank everybody enough for the great support. But this is a long battle, and he continues to fight every day. He was able to give us thumbs up yesterday when we were there. So we're getting, those little acknowledgments that makes us feel better as we get a chance to see him. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, Greg and Joe Fouché and Jay Ward and Jared Bernard-Converse and Mackay Gardner, those were veteran dudes for us last year. And they got the ball on the ground. And we got to keep working with our young guys, and we got to get the ball on the ground. But there's a significant loss in tackles there, and we knew it was going to be a process, and we're going to stick with our process, and we're going to keep working at it, and we got to get better each and every day. We know we're accountable for it. We're not going to shy away from it, but we got to work on the guys that we have, and we're going to work to get better every day.
Brian, a couple things. You talked about the communication. I was just wondering, what is it coming from the players? Obviously, with young guys like you have in certain spots, there's some things that they're just not going to be able to do. What are they telling you? And then secondly, in a situation like this with the secondary you have, is it better to back the safety out of the box and have them play a little bit more help?
Yeah, I mean, look, communication, there shouldn't be issues with communication. There should be, if you're in man coverage, you should know you're in man coverage. We had a situation where, obviously we thought we were in man, and everybody else thought they were man, and one guy didn't think he was in man. So, those things can't happen, certainly. Trying to decide whether you're dropping somebody in a hit position versus keeping him back. I mean, it's so technical relative for me to get into it today, and I'm not trying to dumb down the answer as much as what I'm trying to say is everything that we try to do is to take not only what we're trying to defend into consideration, but who we have out there too. So all of those things are taken into consideration, is what I'm saying.
Coach, with Deuce Chestnut not traveling with the team, was that a coach's decision?
Yes.
And is there any update on the injury report?
Yes, let me give you that. Injury report. We have Chris Hilton, Omar Spates, and Aaron Anderson. We would list those guys as of yesterday, questionable. Lacey and Javen Nicholas as probable. Those are our guys. Lower body for the first three guys, and the same for the next two that are probable.
In the middle, Brian.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of the new players defensively.
Yeah.
Last season was very similar. You had a lot of new players defensively that had transferred in.
Mm-hmm.
Defense last year performed well. Why isn't the message, or why doesn't the message appear to be taking this year the way it did a year ago?
Well, I think I made it clear that the different players that we're talking about are younger players that are playing, very prominent roles. You had a Micah Baskerville, for example, instead of a Whit Weeks, who's a young player versus a veteran player. You're playing, a freshman corner versus a fifth-year corner. So, yeah, there's a lot of freshmen that are in that, and because of that, there's a lot more inexperience. What we need to do is we need to play better. You're absolutely right. So your question is on point relative to the overall defense. We have to play better, regardless of who the players are. But we have a lot of new players, and we have to get the younger players that are in prominent roles, as well as the transfer players that we picked through the portal. Those are the guys that we picked. We have to get all those guys playing at a higher level.
Coach, a lot of people watching the game felt like Whit Weeks made an immediate impact when he got into the game, and then apparently he didn't get in until 28 points on the board or whatnot. Do you think he may start or get into the game earlier, or how do you evaluate the way he's played? He's young, he's learning.
Yeah, we love his energy. We love what he's doing. We want him to continue to grow, continue to do what he's doing. There's nothing that we don't like about him, but he's learning the position.
Brian, down here. In the front.
Yeah.
You talked about going to the portal and ended up getting young guys in order to avoid having to go into the portal year after year in the secondary. But in retrospect, right now, do you maybe wish that y'all had approached that any differently?
We didn't have much choice based upon where we were the year before. We had to put a team together. So we were going to be in this situation regardless. And listen, I don't want to sit up here and talk about what we don't have. What we have is a good football team that needs to play better, and we need to coach better. And regardless of all the other things that are out there, we're in the position that we're at. And so, look, we know the situation that we have. We've got to get the guys that are on our roster playing at a higher level. And we had 34 missed tackles for 284 yards. We have to tackle the football, and we have to create a new line of scrimmage. If we do those two things, we're going to be better on defense, we're going to keep the points down, and we're going to continue to win football games at LSU. That's the standard. We didn't live up to that standard, and we need to. So we need to get back to work. We're going to get back to work here today with a team meeting, and we'll get back on the field on Tuesday, with that being our resolve.
Coach, right here, down right here. You've had so many years of experience. Is there anything that you can draw from or pull from? Not that there's a magic recipe, but to be able to kind of turn this around within the season. Is this something that just takes time, or is it more of just getting these guys?
I don't have time. Do I look like I've got time? I didn't come down here because I got time. I came down here to be successful with the LSU football program. So, no, we don't have time. That's why we did what we did in the transfer portal, or I would have took all freshmen last year. So there is some management of this. But we'll get them better. We'll get these guys playing better. They want to play better. They've got pride. These guys will respond. They'll bounce back. We lost, I think, 40-something to 14 to Tennessee. I think they were ready to burn the city down. And we came back the next week and beat Florida on the road. So we don't need to all jump off the buildings yet. We're going to be okay. We're going to keep working hard. These guys got a lot of pride in LSU football. Our coaches are going to work hard, and we're going to keep getting better.
If you could just kind of educate me, are you all running combo coverages in the secondary?
You're killing me. You're killing me right now.
I just don't want to say anything wrong on TV. Starting a new league.
Yes, we're running combo coverages.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah. And then secondly, 34 tackles, is pursuit angles, guys that don't ever get to the tackle, is that included in that?
Well, when we're talking about missed tackles, we're talking about we're in the hole, we miss a tackle. We're not talking about open field missed tackles. We're talking about in its totality, when we have an opportunity to make a tackle, we miss the tackle. Oh, well, everything is, if we take the wrong angle, if we're for outside in instead of inside out, all those things matter. This is a hard day. Tough questions, probing, dual coverages. We don't tilt the nose, so if we can get through that, we're in good shape. Any other questions about? Yes, please. I'll take it. I'll take one. I'm taking your job. I'm sorry.
They just have to pass the mic around. You have to answer the questions. Usually when you see a program or a team having a struggle in a game or something, it's often both sides of the ball, but your offense has been exceptional the entire season. Can you speak to, from a coaching standpoint, just what level of
It's number one in total offense.
Yeah.
It's number one in pass offense. It's not, just in case you didn't get these, if you want to write them down. It's number one in third down conversion. It's number two in scoring. It's number three in third rush offense. Jaden Daniels leads the SEC and ranked number two in the nation in total offense. Leads the SEC in total touchdowns in passing, pass efficiency, and passing touchdowns. And it's the fourth straight game accounting for at least 4 touchdowns. Brian Thomas leads the nation in receiving. This is from Mike Bonnett's sake, because he does this all the time, and I never read any of this stuff from Mike. So, Mike,
That was a good.
this is for you. He does this. It's all nice. It's typed up.
And you lead the nation in first downs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And, it was interesting because, the 2019 team, prolific. It won the national championship. These numbers are starting to look like those kind of numbers. That's the kind of offense that we're talking about. And that's why it's so darn important to play better defense. That's why it's so important, because when you have an offense like this, you want to be able to showcase. Absolutely. And it doesn't get the showcase because all the questions here are about the defense. And I understand that. Totally understand that. So that's why it's so important that we do the things necessary to get the points down so we play better defense.
One last thing, if I may. From a coach's critical eye, we see the numbers as you do, the stats and everything. How efficient are you being on offense? I mean, how good does it look to you? I mean, are you like, I'm sure there's always something you can do better, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were, I thought the last couple of drives, we had a chance to, with 5 minutes to go in the game. We don't want to, like we did against Arkansas, we don't want to give the ball up. That was probably the one thing that we wish we were better. To me, the last team that had the ball was going to win, and we had the last chance, and we didn't make a play at the end, but we had a chance to close that game out, I thought, and we didn't convert when we needed to. That's probably the only thing that I could take a shot at our offense, and there's not much to say about that. Thank you. Good. All right. Thank you.
You run combo coverages. What are you talking about?